Hey everyone, this is Marsh from Consequence. Because my first video was a success with Stone Legion Generals, I am going to do another video here for Denathrius. I guess maybe I can do these in the future, but my videos are really targeted on like guilds that aren't at the top end, but not at the low end of Mythic rating. So, like the world 200 to maybe 800, 900 level is kind of where I'm going for. I think after that, the raid will get nerfed, um, and the fight will obviously change. So going into the fight, I mean, I guess I can talk about my setup and then kind of what we decided to do on our end. So my trinkets are terrible. It is what it is. I've been grinding in plus, but it happens. Talent setup. I can kind of go in why a little in the fight. I don't want to get too hunter specific, but one thing to note, if your guild's not doing this, PvP is literally broken. It's very easy to get 1800, especially in rated battlegrounds. It's not hard to get 2100 in rated battlegrounds if you have a group that knows what they're doing. So regarding my PvP gear, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 pieces of PvP gear? 5? I mean, it's different for every class, but I didn't get that lucky in the raid, so I had to find other ways to get strong-ish. And the stam and the agility are really, really important. Going into the VOD here, kind of gonna go over what we did with the thought process and whatnot. So we're one of the few guilds that run a Bear Druid. I wouldn't look at our tank comp and be like, this is the best, because I don't think it's the best. I think it's very good. Tanks with the ability to jump in P2, Demon Hunters, I think Druids can do it if they're really careful with their stuff, but you have to be very clever. Um, Monks can probably get away with some Transcend stuff. I don't know, it depends on your tank comp. But if you have like a DH or a warrior, someone who can kind of jump around easily, the fight in P2 is significantly easier. Um, I wouldn't look at our P2 like positioning and like copy it exactly. Every guild does it different. There's many ways to do it. It depends on your comp, depends on your tank's like comfort level in a way, and it's just not something that I'm gonna kind of talk about. Um, for comp wise in the healer group, we ran Shaman HPAL disc, and the probably if you want to say the best comp is double HPAL Shaman disc, but as long as you have like I think a disc and a Resto Shaman and an HPAL, the fourth slot can be whatever you want. At least at this level. The farther you go down, the less important it gets. So the DPS comp, what we ran with, obviously this is going to change for your guild. Double DK, DKs are just really good. You can get away with single DK. You can probably get away with one DK or zero DKs. But they're really good. They're really good in phase one and phase two, and super good in phase three. Um, Balanced Druids are arguably the best DPS spec in the game right now. We use two. Ellie Shaman, kind of sleeper OP in my opinion. Yes, a balanced Druid will do more, but we always utilize an Ellie slash Resto main in this guild. So again, a lot of guilds run like a mage or another lock in that slot. Like we had single lock. That's just something we kind of had to use all tier. Double lock will make this easier. 3 hunters. Hunters are good in P2. Hunters are also falling off scaling. So you can get away with 1 or 2 probably. I'd probably use 2 in like a perfect comp. Uh, Demon Hunter, they're just good in general in this fight, except for not that good in P3, but we didn't have a Demon Hunter tank until very recently. So our Demon Hunter was like super geared. Rogue, he is actually Assassin. I'll show you why later. It's after the buffs they did to Assassin. Outlaw is probably the best prog spec, but I'll show you why we did Assassin at the end. Warrior and Monk are just also really strong. So, going in the fight here, you have to kind of figure out, like, I didn't set this up, but you have to figure out how you're going to do the soaks, right? Like, so another officer set this up, but you can see here, like, these guys are stacking, these are stacking, these are stacking, these are stacking. The way this debuff works, you have 6 stacks. When you get hit by yourself, it's a 1-yard cleave. When you hit by yourself, it's going to drop you to 5. If you get hit with one person, you're going to drop you to 4. Hit by with 2 people, it's going to drop you to 3. Every guild does this differently, so honestly, this phase isn't that hard. You just kind of got to figure it out for yourself. So you can see here that I'm stacked right here, and my stack count is going to go to 4. And then I'm going to move out, and I'm just going to rapid fire with volley up. So the Night Hunters, we wiped to this a decent amount, I guess. It's kind of weird because they can spawn in really awkward situations. Like, this is fine. But in short, you want to get through the boss so your tanks soak both, and then you have some single liners for the other ones. And that's it. But like sometimes they can spawn like here, so you have to like move here and it gets awkward. General rule, if you get it, just move immediately. Don't try the greed. Get in a good spot and don't move. DPS cooldowns here, you can kind of see who's using their cooldowns because they're all doing over 20k. But you want to have them up at the beginning of P2 for the most part, unless you're like a DK. So, but the DKs use it like, I think they actually cast it like a second before pull. And then they consistently hit the boss in P1, so it's up in time for P2. But what this guild did is they use the hunters to kind of cover the other DPS assignments that aren't the first set. So for me, I took the shit set here. We don't have many soakers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So, but we needed a cooldown here because with Night Hunter, we were losing people to Night Hunter. So I just took the bullet, right? Like, I'm not going to do that much damage. They die quickly. Wild Spirits isn't cleaving, etc., etc. But it's fine because they died. One thing to note, you can use your immunities here. I probably wouldn't advise using them on like the 6 set of Night Hunters, but anything else is fine. It makes the phase easier. We focus the gateway here. There we go. Now here, this is group 3, right? So stacking, single, 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 single. So I know I'm in this group. I come to this spot almost every pull. Sometimes I'm up here. It depends where people are standing. But I stand here. I know what's up. I'm going to drop volley, right? And I'm going to precast an aim shot because it just like kind of worked out a little better for me. But see with the Night Hunters, like this is slightly awkward because he's super far. But they're trying to get it through the boss, and the tanks will soak both, and a few people in single lines. Never take 2, you'll die horribly. Blood price here, I feigned most of them. I use a conduit. That reduces the damage, because why not? P1 damage eventually doesn't matter. This is group 4. Again, through the boss. Like, this is a little awkward. This isn't perfect, but it's good enough. All right, and we move over here for the last set. We don't want to push under 70 until the last Ravage is casting. So this is group 5, and you can see them right here. So they're going to go in. And we use group 5 and group 6 to kind of clean up anything that we missed or messed up on. Also note, if you're at 0 stacks and get hit, you instantly die. So we kill them off. I get it. I'm gonna choose to immune here because the fifth one, I usually don't immune the six. The issue is if I get impale, which I think I actually do, then I won't have immune up, but it's not a big deal because I'm a dwarf, and you'll see why. And I feign that, which is good. And this is cleanup, so we have a few people in. Bench says cleanup. Tank has to take it. This might not be 100% accurate. We cross the lines. Now you'll hear us saying stop damage, but we need to basically push him when he starts casting. He starts casting, you go, go, go. As soon as you see the cast, you're good to rock. You try to squeak in as much damage as possible. This is very important. So one thing that I don't see all guilds doing, even though it's becoming more popular, is if you notice this balancer does 0 stacks. That's intentional. What he's going to do as soon as he can, he's going to roar with a conduit. And that roar is going to go on us here. So you'll see like some guilds take people to 2 and then use Night Fae on 3. We just use roar. You don't need to use Night Fae because it doesn't stack. And it works as Night Fae. So you get in. For Hunter, you can get 1 aim shot and 1 arcane shot. And what I do is I move forward because the drop, the way it works is you will be dropped in this like almost the same area where you fall. So if I was like up here, then I drop closer to where I have to be in this phase. So here, this is when your guild comp and assignments come into play. All right, so we run a lot of melee in this fight. Melee are fine. They're pretty good. And in the last phase, you can either choose to use range in the melee group or you can just have a melee group, which we'll get there. But we just had a melee group. And we didn't run double HPAL. So we ran like 2 more melee than a lot of guilds did. So here, this is where the cooldowns come in. Now, one thing to note is I potted in P1 because if I pot here, it won't be up for the last phase. So basically, you just want to blast the living crap out of this. All right, these things that come out of the boss here, this wave, that's gonna silence you for 6 seconds. There's 2 ads. There's this ad, which the range are just killing from a distance, and you have to find out what cooldowns you use for yourself. So you can look at our logs. It's all public. We don't hide because I mean, who cares? And there's VODs of a bunch of people. But we have our warlock over there, and that's important. And I'll point out why in the logs in a second. We kill this, and we move over for the range group. One thing to note here is I look this way because sometimes this ad needs to be interrupted, and I'll go over that in a second. So here, they push it too slow, and this is going to get off. We don't die because of how much gear we have, but this would wipe you like on early prog. But this happened a few times, so we're used to it. So like to go over like the melee part of P2, it's pretty simple. So what's gonna happen is you're gonna drop, and your warlock, one of your warlocks, or if you have 2, one will do this and one will do this, is gonna put down a gateway from here to here. Your melee group is gonna go over. So you see here the way we did it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. We had more people in this ad because we had more cooldowns to go in this ad. Now, one thing to note is we had our Demon Hunter DPS throw glaive this and then leave. So even though we have less people here, because of our cooldown usage, we're able to burn this down before it's a problem. Now, for this ad, thank you. I don't know the percentages on the top of my head, but when you get the boss to a certain percentage, it spawns an ad. And the ad needs 5 kicks. You want to do the kicks as fast as possible because you know it has 5 kicks. You want both of them to spawn because as you can see what happened there, we didn't push the boss percentages fast enough, so the second ad got its 5th cast off when we were getting gripped. So that's kind of the plan with that, where you want to burn down its percent fast enough, but you still want to be doing boss damage or Immortal damage. Excuse me. So the tank will jump down for the hand, and they're just interrupting the ads up here. So the range group's already done, and we're moving over. They're interrupting the ad. This is going to die, and we're going to get gripped in. Now, there's going to be pulls that come, and we're going to go through. Now, one thing to note that I don't do because my class doesn't allow me is the Warlock move the gateway when that ad was like 30% from here to here. Because of that, these classes, there's a hand of destruction here. These classes are going to go over regardless and use their defensive because we want to get a burn on Gloomveil early. So they get Impale, and this group kind of has to work out like how they want to deal with Impale, like what happens if they get Impale. And then this ad, if you click it, like if you use any ability on it, it'll grip you in. And the people with the Impales, they need to stay behind before they go to their ad. And you'll get it before you go to the mirror. So we'll watch that now. So this is exactly what I was talking about. We go through the mirror. I get Impale. The way we did Impales, one, always in the front, no matter what. Preferably front left, doesn't matter though. Be in the front. And when I mean front, I mean close to the middle of the room. The rest of them don't matter. You want to make a box. That's a triangle because someone had the Impale on the other side. And the reason that it's like kind of scary to use your immunity early in P1 is because I don't have it up here yet for this Impale. But because I'm a dwarf, I use my dwarf racial and it doesn't matter anymore. And then I go back through and gateway over and meet these people. However, as you see, the people without the Impale, but most of the people that went over early have already absolutely nuked the living shit out of this guy. So we want to bait Massacre on one side and then rotate, which is what we do. This is a smoke screen. You can only hit when you're in the smoke. And then the melee ad, they're all stacked together. Then they do the same thing with Massacre. Then they just rotate to the other side. Remornia is on that side. So we have hand in 2 seconds here. I know I can get an aim shot off, an arcane shot, so I do. And then we go. Both ads die. We go through the mirror. For hunters, you want to be blasting Remornia pretty hard. Careful aim talent will do that. That's kind of a unique situation. So I'm not going to talk about like the class min-max and things like that. But for this set, as you see here, the box formation, one's going to be in the front. So that's the Impales. Tanks, they want to debuff all these ads, by the way. Oops, the ads. Like the horseman ads. Again, I'm not going to like go over tank positioning and how to debuff the ads and things like that. Every guild does it a little different. So that's something that you're going to have to look into for your tanks. If you're running a different tank comp, you might have to do something else. Anyway, the rule of thumb here is I don't care when these die. We're mostly blasting the boss. But these have to die before this hand comes out. Because if you get gripped, and I mean by hand, I mean like 7 to 10 seconds beforehand. So in comms, you'll see me like swap and kill because we want this to happen before we get gripped. Because you get gripped in this stuff, people are just going to die. You can pre-run it and stuff like that. It's just kind of awkward. So we go through. Easy. Now this set is the quote-unquote target down set because we want to do this set and then drag the boss over here. So as you see, I'm going to get Impale, and then I'm going to look at the box. Number 1 is right there. I guess he was right there, but it doesn't matter. So I immune that one, and that's the box. So the idea here is they want to drag the boss over with the ad because we want to do setup here before this Hand of Destruction. So these are targeted down, so you can see I'm kill shotting on the move, because it's not worth to kind of not do it like this is the best way of putting it. And for this set, it's mostly blasting the boss. The only thing that matters is you kill this 7 seconds before this goes off. So you'll probably hear me in comms like kill ad, kill ad, kill ad, which we do, and then blast boss. For a while, we couldn't kill this ad before we went over, but eventually we got good enough where we would get it low. And if you hear the comms, you hear me say, don't kill this ad until hand. Because what's going to end up happening is if you kill it before, you'll get gripped and fucked. We get gripped, we quickly nuke it. We're going to spawn the shit like half over here, half over here. We just keep moving, easy clap. Impales go. One thing to note about Impale is every time you go through the mirror, you're going to get an Impale. So this is fucked up because I think the tank went back through the port by accident. It's like a really like big hitbox. So we almost died there. But again, that's 2 mistakes in P2 and we still live, by the way. Look at all these dots. So all we're doing here is blasting boss, like in cleaving. Because you want to push in 27 seconds. That's so fucking long. So we do this. And again, this just has to die like 7 to 10 seconds before hand comes out, and it will. Yep, you just dodge. Easy. This set's very easy to kill. You get gripped in. You get through and you're transitioning here in 5 seconds. He either transitions off of 40.5% or timer. So we're a little off here. We're about 0.5% off from perfect. And again, as I said, a lot of that came to do with like Remornia and boss positioning and like kind of how he handled P2. I don't think what we did was 100% ideal. It just worked for us. So I highly recommend, again, you figure out what works for you. Some strats you'll have to stop damage. Some you don't have to stop damage, like ours. So you have to kind of like figure out like what you want to do with that. Now, as you can see here, we put down these marks: yellow, orange, skull, purple, X, and there's green back there. Out here, I listed all the movements for every single situation. This is all scripted. So he's gonna blood. So one thing to know is the Warlock. This is setting up for like 2 minutes down the line. So you can do that for 2 minutes down the line. You get knocked back into blood price. I shaked my head there because I tried to feign death. But so here we go. Look at the note. Melee purple, range orange. Okay, easy. Melee purple, range orange. One thing to note is that these are in a straight line. And to get in this phase, actually, kind of talk about this phase a little. When you phase into P3 and you go through the mirror, just like you were in P2, you'll go into the mirror phase. The mirror phase and the normal phase cannot touch. If you touch another player, you will both die in the other phase. So a lot of groups, they'll have double HPAL and then like a mage in here or something like that. Now we had so many melee that we could just do this melee or file in this fight, but this is like the max melee you can run because if you had another melee, I don't even know, like you'd have to like it's just impossible because they can't touch. Um, I guess like another HPAL is technically melee would be slotted into here, but that's about it. But notice how we drop in a straight line, all right? And that's because they're going to drag the boss here and then here. So it's easier for the melee to have uptime on the boss. And notice when this guy drops, he's like going away from the range group because they can't touch. So as you can see here, they can take that, and then there's knockback. One thing to note, if you're dropping off a circle, you'll get a dot on you. It's pretty nasty. You can soak if you really want to, but understand that you'll be taking more damage. Anyway, we got knockback, and they're going to move the boss to the mid here. Range already lusted. They lust after first blood price. Melee lusts after second blood price, I want to say, with the DK cooldowns. Because in P2, the DKs want a CD the second horseman ad they're on, which is at 4 minutes. So again, if you look at the note, range skull, melee green. So whatever, it doesn't really matter if he makes it all the way there. And like this is honestly better, so who cares? Yep. And now here, what we're gonna do is we're going to do our first bait, and this is like your first prog, all right? So this group cannot touch this group. However, what's gonna happen is we get this first overlap, which is massacres and dropping these off. And he splits the room. So we're gonna roar, and then if you notice, these guys are running, like he's soul shaped already. They're kind of taking a path. You'll have massacres baited through here. You're gonna wait for these to despawn, and then you're gonna move in, which is exactly what they do. The melee group is just dodging in that other quadrant that's still open, and their guy's trying to drop it mid, which he does. So now we just loop around, soak, easy. That'll definitely take you a few pulls though, because the range kind of have a pretty hard job dropping that off if they don't understand like they have to wait for the line to disappear, and like you kind of got to get like close quickly. Here you'll hear me call move left. You don't want to be knocked in that for no reason. It doesn't do that much damage, but it's just like unnecessary. So blood price is coming here. I already feigned death for it. And I think this is when the melee lusts, but you'd have to look at the logs. So here, I'm calling for basically straight line. Like some guilds, like this is perfect. So you see in a line at star. Now this guy's going to run around, and the range group is just going to move in. And then you have knockback. And then this is the hardest part of the fight. So basically, you want to focus this gateway. And I'm saying in comms, we're like 2 to 3% ahead right now because we are. And we have 3 reses. So the rule is focus the gateway. This is for range. Focus the gateway. Once you see the first line, you go. I'm literally, I know that we're going to kill the boss. So I'm literally just waiting. See line, go. And then everyone, you want to immune this knockback. This knockback is terrible. If you watch some of our other range POVs, they're gonna get, you want to like gate and then knock back and not into a massacre. So that's good that despawned. They get punted. All right. And then you have this, which luckily Banishes and I do this perfectly, where we drop in a straight line, and then the melee is gonna drop here. Boom, shift. Now for melee, it gets complicated. So I think it's this. So you can kind of see in the replay what I'm talking about. I hate these ads, holy crap. Okay, so we gateway. Now the melee, they're moving in basically where we just gatewayed from. We just gatewayed here to here. They're moving here. We're gonna bop one person, and then the melee who can use their immunities or death's advance do it. The rogue is gonna get knocked into the old shit while cloak is up. So he's baiting Naskers over there. And the DH, who also doesn't have a bop right now, and the monk, he's gonna glide cancel. But they're basically dodging where the range just were. Yep, the druid one. Yep. So, and the monk like pops everything as well. So basically you just need to kind of figure out like where can I get knocked, where can I not die. Like some classes, like all these classes that got knocked back are in danger. The melee classes that get knocked back are in danger. The hunters are just chilling. The mage is just chilling. And we get those in perfect spots as well as this. Um, Shamans have a fleshcraft. I think resto shamans would use it where they can cast fleshcraft and not be knocked back for like 4 or 5 seconds. So it's something to keep in mind. I think we tried to do that. Anyway, we get the soaks here. And also notice, I didn't talk about this earlier, the melee will always get pushed to the boss because they're in the mirrored phase. So range are always getting pushed away from the boss, melee are being pushed to the boss. So they're here because they're going to get pushed through the boss here for the knockback. And through the boss they go. Alright. And these are the last drops here after this blood price. And I'm saying in comms, if you're not 100, use a Hellstone. So here, the range drop in a straight line here. And the melee, this is a fine spot. You can make an argument that it should be like the boss should be moved here already, and this should be over here. So like this is fine, but you're gonna see why this could be a problem. So like I think ideally you'd move the boss here, and then the melee drops here. But we weren't that practiced in this phase, so we drop it here, and I'm saying comes range, move, because we have to soak this or we die. So you see like people like Nightflay, Fade Blink in and stuff. And then I'm saying disengage because you don't want to get ticked from that stuff. And then these last sets you just drop. That mage gets hit. That's not ideal, but you just don't want to get hit by anyone else's circle. You want to drop them off, and then these you ignore. So I late wild spirits here because I'm focusing on calls. So don't copy my cooldowns for the last second here. And this is really the fight. So we're gonna kill here. Now a lot of kills are like literally like one thing to note is that this cast will instantly kill you. Running into the old shit will save you like 3 or 4 seconds. So we kill it before, but you can run into the old shit and save yourself some seconds because the old shit will just tick you for like a fourth of your damage like every second or something, and this will just literally one shot you. Um, that's kind of our strategy. Now, just to point out some like things with logs, I guess, is if you're gonna go through, this is just one pool, so like crits and things like that are gonna come into play. But like these guys are low because they get impale, right? But you can see like these guys went over early, they're carrying. Um, Sincere. These are the Sincere cooldowns. How are we able to do it with way less people in other guilds on Sincere? Well, we worked out the cooldowns. Clearly he's cooldowning, probably cooldowning. Uh, I don't know. I don't think so. They kept changing it. These two guys kept coordinating, not cooldowning. We had a disc there blasting. We had our Resto Shaman blasting. This is like things that we worked out over time. And then like I think is it Evershade? So like who's doing damage to the ad? We need to get this ad phased. Cooldowning, but hitting Remornia sometimes. And no one else I don't think is cooldowning. I think that's the first one. Or maybe is it Dusk Hollow? No, this is the second one. So this is the second melee ad. Cooldowning. So you need to work out like how you're going to handle those ads in the second phase. In the first phase, you'll just learn like how to kill them efficiently. One thing to note in the first phase, Earthen Wall Totem will lag you out on the first Echo of Sins. Our shamans did not run Earthen Wall Totem. So what we did in the last phase and why certain classes are better than others. So at the beginning I said hunters are falling off. Yes, hunters are really good in P2. We do efficient ad damage. We help push the boss very quickly. If it's tanked like in a certain way. Phase 3 damage is kinda where things get into play. So like procs and cooldowns. So for example, he used one less cooldown than a lot of other monks in this phase. That's kind of how we did P2. But why do guilds take Affliction Warlocks? Well, there you go. They're bad in P1. They're decent in P2. The 2 gateways is really nice. You don't have to move it. They dominate P3. Why do we run an Assassination Rogue? One of the first 5 guilds to do it. We their Execute Legendary is so good in the last phase that we didn't need him to do as much in P1 and P2 like an Outlaw Rogue would do because we allowed our other classes to handle it. So he could just destroy the second or the third phase. Balance Druids are just insane. DKs are saying Ellie Shaman's sleeper OP, like I tell people. Hunters, Banter's very good, also has very good gear. But as you can see, this is why I'm saying like Hunters aren't as good as they used to be because they're doing lower P3 damage. And that's just because they're not that good single target. So Demon Hunter is just not good single target in general. Again, we ran it because we ran it basically the whole tier. Monk basically carries P1 and P2, and then you need a mage for the buff. Unsure how other mages handle their cooldowns. I didn't look at this that much. So, but even look at our healers here. They're just blasting because damage is so critical in that last phase. Um, Other than that, there's a few things that you could do. We weren't using the Warlock Curse on the boss because we're literally trolling, but that's probably helpful. Um, Healing cooldowns, you gotta just look at logs and whatever works for your comp. Um, Other than that, I think that's the majority of the tips and tricks that I wanted to discuss for this encounter. Overall, we took like 102 pulls or something, or 100 pulls to kill it, so we're like on the really lower end of pull counts. Um, a lot of our wipes were like to dumb stuff like missed interrupts or not killing the range ad fast enough when we're trying to figure out our cooldown assignments. So, or even wiping in P1. It's just sometimes we just randomly wipe in P1. So, um, lower pull count than average. Pretty good fight for us. I wouldn't say we played it perfectly, but it was definitely good enough to get the job done. Um, Other than that, that's basically all I have to say. One thing to note is look at our average damage. I think it's like 78, 79k to kill the boss before Enrage. But anyway, there's really nothing else I need to say. You can always ask me questions, DM me on Discord or in game if you have any questions or anything like that. And um, you know, you can also comment my YouTube video. But other than that, I'm out. I'm done. Good luck on your prog. Peace.